What I'm doing right now is I'm building a forms for a paper mache mask. I do very elaborate masks amongst a lot of other things. I do woodcuts and I do paintings and that sort of stuff. I'm currently making a not a template, but the basic form for a mask, and I'm using paper mache. Paper mache is the media right now. My formula for paper mache is probably the most traditional you can find, which is water and flour based. A lot of people use wheat based and water based and that sort of stuff. And they use a variety of materials. I use newsprint. A lot of other people use other types of papers, but the most traditional in the Mexican tradition is to use simple newsprint. That's what I'm making these forms for. After I complete these forms, I generally paint over them with a white paint, and then I detail them heavily and complete the mask in that fashion. I get inspirations from just about everything. Things I see and feel every single day, stories I've heard in the past, things that I dream, things that I envision, things that I've read about, animals that I've seen, people that I've seen, plants that I've seen, even those two hawks that flew past there. I get sort of inspiration from a lot of different stuff for the masks. The masks range from very political to whimsical. Like I have a mask called Punk Calavera, which is just this, no, Punk Minotaur, sorry, which is my vision of what a Minotaur would look if you were a punk rocker, believe it or not. This mask I'm completely doing right now, I think I'm going to let my cats inspire this particular piece. It's going to be my cat piece. These are three of the tools I use most often in most of my work. And a lot of my very detailed woodcuts as well as relief work, I use a lot of both American and Japanese types of tools. This is a Japanese tool, it's a V-cutter. I also use the American V-cutter. They're different, they're sort of, they both are different tools. They both sort of work in your hand a lot differently. The American tool has this sort of ball towards the bottom of it. Japanese tools do not, they're completely straight. It all depends on what sort of detail I want. And you can imagine if you look at my woodcuts, there's a tremendous amount of detail. For this V-cutter, you get this perfectly beautiful, straight, and sometimes extremely delicate line. And I do a lot of line work in my sort of work. Just a lot of line work. So you see that little tiny piece that came off just with a little bit of pressure. I do a lot of little tiny itsy bitsy line work, and I love those details and that sort of stuff. Another tool that I use quite a bit is the U-cutter. This is a Japanese U-cutter right in here. This is used for sort of gouging out larger sort of shapes. Sort of blocking out larger sort of shapes like that. Like I want that section out of there, bam, it comes out immediately. One of the other tools I use quite a bit is also an X-Acto blade. I have a number of different knives and that sort of stuff. I use a lot of X-Acto blades for also sort of roughing out areas and also sort of getting in through areas that you can't get in through any other area because you need just all the details that is necessary. For example, notice that little piece come right off of there. Little itty bitty tiny details and that sort of stuff that I want blocked out of there. So I use sort of the U-cutters to sort of gouge out larger shapes that I want out of the picture, and sort of for more finessey details types of areas, I'll use sort of a V-cutter. And I have a number of different types of V-cutters here. Both again I use Japanese V-cutters, which are here, as well as American tools, which are here. Why use a variety of tools? For a variety of different shapes and textures and that sort of thing. You know, I do so many different shapes and textures in my work, I just have to have a variety of tools to accommodate that sort of thing. And also depending on just how I feel. Sometimes I feel like using Japanese tools, sometimes I feel like using American tools. Well, there's no science to that, it's just what I feel like doing. So. This particular piece is woodcut. The woodcut is the medium that I'm working on in this particular piece. Some people take wood blocks and carve. I carve everything from doors, literally to walls, to panels of paper. I don't mean to panels, wooden panels, to thin panels like this. If you notice, I don't know if you can catch that on camera, all my details and all this detail and all the rest of the thing has been completely carved out by hand. I'm currently showing at the UFRAT Museum, I think 3 or 4 larger woodcuts. They are literally, I think I carved out literally to 2 or 3 panels for those particular pieces. This particular piece here is called the Bush Beast. Needless to say, I'm a political artist. A lot of my work entails political content, and I wasn't too happy about the Bush administration's administration of war, and certainly not its treatment towards just humanity in general. So this is my Bush Beast. This is the way I envision George Bush's soul, believe it or not. And it's not necessarily in the most, let's put it this, most kind-hearted form as you can imagine. I imagine George Bush's soul being that of a beast, a three-headed beast, with Dick Cheney and Condoleezza Rice both heading the portions of this horrible clawed beast. This particular piece here is a woodcut. It's entitled Until You Come. It depicts an angel coming out of a nuclear weapon and it is the angel has destroyed the nuclear weapon and is also a decimated evil. I depict a lot of good versus evil in my woodcuts. This particular angel is a very powerful angel. It even bothers to have a cigarette after it's dismantled a nuclear weapon, and of course done away with two very nasty military figures in the bottom there. That is a woodcut, and I think that was completed from carving, I believe, a wood block. Also using both American tools and Japanese woodcutting tools. It's printed on Okawara, traditional Okawara Japanese newsprint paper. I print all my woodcuts by hand. I do not use a printing press. Everything is done by hand. I mean, literally, I roll it off the ink, and I don't use a press. I carve it all by hand. I don't use electronic tools at all, regardless of the size of some of my woodcuts, which are huge, and they're all printed by hand too. I don't use printed presses for any of the woodcuts at all, because there's a quality difference I can see in the work itself, and I'm sure other people can see the quality difference in work itself. The label of that particular piece is Until You Come.